I feel like a servant in my own home. I've been dating my boyfriend for 2 years and we moved in together 6 months ago, but I'm miserable. I'm a neat freak and he's extremely lazy at home, despite being a hard worker elsewhere. I do all the cooking, cleaning, and laundry, and he just sits on the couch, watching TV or scrolling on his phone. I've brought it up multiple times, but he only occasionally helps, saying he'll get to it later, which never happens. It feels like a lack of respect for me, and I'm starting to see how he really views me. We have good moments, but this issue bothers me deeply. He hired a cleaning lady once a week, but it's not enough. I'm torn between trying to get through to him, or considering it a breakup-worthy issue. Now I'm wondering if I should keep trying to make it work, or if it's time to reevaluate our relationship.
Man in the woods lured me. I was 19, walking alone, listening to a creepy story about a guy who realized he was staring into someone's eye. It reminded me of a chilling experience. I was in the woods and a man was lurking, trying to get my attention without me noticing. I didn't see him until the last moment, and it was terrifying. Luckily, I managed to get away safely, but it was a harrowing experience that still sends shivers down my spine. I often think about what could have happened if I hadn't been so alert. The memory of that man's face still haunts me, and I'm just grateful to have escaped unharmed. I've been more cautious since then, always aware of my surroundings, especially in isolated areas.
Shocking encounter with a regular. I'm a 26-year-old waitress at a 5-star hotel. A regular customer, an eccentric American around 40, would often request to be served by me, giving good tips and being funny with the staff. However, one night he crossed a line, stroking my hip and making bizarre comments about traveling together. I avoided the situation and told my manager. Next day he returned, and when I asked to be moved to another section, he grabbed my arm tightly, threatening me. I removed his hand and left the area, telling my manager, who sent me home with pay. After my manager spoke with him, I never saw the customer again, and it was a huge relief.
I became paralyzed from the chest down after a drunk driver hit me. A drunk driver hit me while I was driving home from work in July, and my life changed instantly. I'm now paralyzed from the chest down. I'm grieving my old life, full of travel and adventure, and trying to figure out how to live in this new body that I resent. Every conversation I have with doctors, therapists, and rehab staff seems to focus on one thing: getting me back to work. It's like my worth is tied to being productive, and the only goal after my accident is to remain employable. I feel like enjoying life, reconnecting with things I care about, or feeling human again don't matter. I'll never travel again or have good seats at a concert. It's a bleak future, and it makes me wish I had died. Now I'm stuck in this reality, feeling like my life has no value beyond my ability to work.
HDMI disconnected nightmare. A young lady rushed to my desk, frantic about a conference room TV monitor displaying HDMI disconnected. I accompanied her to troubleshoot, checking cords and ports. She claimed it was like that when she arrived. I asked if it happened during her presentation, but she shook her head. I then handed her the loose end of the cord, instructing her to plug it into her laptop's HDMI port. 2 seconds later, her laptop was mirroring perfectly. She seemed surprised, saying, "Oh, that's what it was." It was an easy fix, but her initial confusion was astonishing. The issue was never the hardware, just a simple oversight. She had never plugged in the HDMI cord, causing the disconnected error. The problem was resolved quickly, and she was able to continue with her presentation.
I got reported to HR for being too quiet and had to have a meeting. I had a meeting with HR and my supervisor yesterday because 2 coworkers reported me for being too quiet, making the environment uncomfortable. I refuse to engage in gossip and don't attend after-work events. When someone starts talking bad about another person, I walk away or put on my headset. I keep my head down, do my job, and only say greetings and goodbyes. Despite winning Employee of the Month 6 times for my attendance and performance, it's not enough. My supervisor told me to join the work group chat and go out for drinks, but I don't drink or smoke. HR said being likable is part of a good workplace experience. I'm shy and awkward, and I chose this desk job to be away from people. I don't want to spend extra time outside of work with coworkers. Now I'm unsure what to do. I think I nuked my relationship with my boyfriend by drawing a hard line. My boyfriend and I have been together for nearly 2 years, living together for 1. As our anniversary approaches, we've been discussing our future and the renovations needed for his house before starting a family. The estimated cost is around $100,000, which I felt uneasy about investing in his asset. I told him I'd like to be engaged before starting this process, so he's making a commitment to me as much as I am to him. He seemed taken aback, and now I'm worried I've drawn a line that could end our relationship. Mom accused me of faking my injury. How do I move forward? I was helping my mom move heavy materials, including 80-pound bags of cement and large hardboards, when one of them fell on my big toe, causing intense pain. I iced it and limped upstairs, unable to walk properly for 3 days. When my mom returned, I explained my situation, but she was skeptical. On the 3rd day, she suggested going to an urgent care center, saying I should be walking by then and that I was acting like a baby. At the urgent care center, the doctor confirmed I had a minor fracture. My mom's reaction was frustrating, and I felt she didn't believe me. Now I'm trying to move forward, feeling hurt by her accusation and unsure how to resolve our conflict.
Tire shop nightmare. I took my car to a tire shop to patch a leak, but when I called to check on it, I was stunned to hear they'd accidentally thrown away my tire. The employee claimed someone thought it was trash when he leaned it against the wall. I asked if they'd give me a free replacement, but they refused, offering a discount on a new one for $85 instead. I'm in California and I feel ripped off, but I don't have a lawyer. I'm torn between paying the $85 and fighting this, but it's the principle that bothers me. I ended up paying the $85, feeling frustrated and taken advantage of, and now I'm warning others to beware of this shop's questionable business practices.
Dad expected to walk me down the aisle. My estranged, narcissistic father expected to walk me down the aisle at my wedding. Despite being no contact for over 2 years, my mom, who I'd been low contact with, called an emergency family therapy session 4 months before the wedding, claiming she was stressed and hurt because I hadn't let her help with planning. She asked about accommodations and what to wear, and I reminded her she was welcome as a guest. But my dad wasn't invited. She threw a temper tantrum, saying it wasn't a real wedding without my dad walking me down the aisle, and that it would damage our family's reputation. She warned that my dad would never forgive me if I didn't comply. I stood firm, saying that was exactly what I'd been trying to do for the past 2 years, distance myself from him. The session ended with my mom still trying to guilt-trip me, but I held my ground. On my wedding day, my dad didn't show up, and I finally felt free from his toxic influence. It's been a year since then, and I'm still dealing with the aftermath, but I know I made the right decision.
A man was very rude to my grandma, so I got my revenge. I was shopping with my grandmother at a busy supermarket for Thanksgiving. A disgruntled man in his 40s almost rammed his cart into hers, jostling her. He then said, "Some people really are rude," which shocked me. We tried to brush it off, but I was annoyed. Later, I saw him walking towards the bathroom and had an idea. I told my grandma I'd meet her back at the produce section and quickly found his cart, filled with stacked water. I wheeled it to the other side of the store and hid it near the employee entrance. As we checked out, I saw him looking confused and frustrated, and I couldn't help but smile. My grandma asked why I was smiling, and I just said I remembered something funny. It was a small revenge, but it made my day.
Customer demands I change door clocks. A customer showed up 1 minute after I locked the doors last Saturday, trying to get me to reopen. He claimed his phone clock said we were still open, but I refused. Today, he returned 5 minutes before closing, accusing me of closing early. He demanded we fix our clocks, but I'd had a long day and snapped, saying maybe he needed to fix his clock instead. He refused to back down, so I cut him off, wished him a good day, and walked away to finish closing. The customer left still unhappy, but I stood firm, knowing our store hours are clearly posted and our clocks are accurate. I'm just glad the situation didn't escalate further, and I could end my shift on a somewhat positive note.
Mysterious figure on construction site. I work for a company supplying interior products to contract projects, currently refurbishing a bar. The site manager and his team are working long hours to meet the deadline. Over the weekend, he took progress photos before leaving on Sunday. Today, he was freaked out to see a hooded figure in one of the pictures, despite being alone in the building at the time. The figure resembles an executioner, which is unsettling since the building stands on the site of a former Victorian jail. 2 contractors have seen the photo and are now refusing to enter the building, causing a problem for the project. The site manager is trying to figure out who or what the figure is, but so far, no explanation has been found, leaving the project at a standstill.
We set boundaries with our families this holiday season. My husband and I were exhausted from spending the last 5 years attending separate holiday gatherings with our families. This year he suggested we host Thanksgiving, and I agreed, enjoying cooking. My family attended, but his parents, who initially said they would come, changed their minds the day before. His mom simply stated that his father didn't want to come, without explanation. She then asked if we'd still attend their family gathering on Saturday. I refused, feeling disrespected. We didn't go, and his family called him over 20 times in a half hour. Now, with Christmas approaching, we're deciding how to handle his family. Our daughters love playing with their cousins, but I don't want to be treated like we're not worth their time. We're hosting a Christmas Eve gathering at our house, but I'm unsure if we should invite his family.
You have one new friend request. I was creeped out by Facebook's people you may know feature, which suggests friends based on mutual connections or past searches. But what really caught my eye was a suggestion for a R. Winters, with no mutual friends and no apparent connection to me. The profile picture was a low-quality photo from the 90s, taken from far away, with the person wearing dark clothing and standing against a tree. I couldn't make out their face, which was unusual for a profile picture. I wondered how Facebook suggested this person, and what their connection to me could be. The mystery of a R. Winter's identity had me intrigued and a little unsettled. I was determined to find out who this person was, and why they appeared in my friend suggestions. As I dug deeper, I realized that Facebook's algorithms can be surprisingly accurate but also sometimes baffling. I decided to send a friend request and wait for a response, hoping to uncover the truth behind the mysterious R. Winters. Now I'm left waiting, wondering who this person is and what their story is.
My darkest night. I'm 17, living in a small town and working at the local Burger King. I'd been on the job for 2 months, walking the 10 minutes to work since I didn't have a car. My dad wasn't worried, given our tight-knit community. As a student, I was only allowed to work until 11 p.m., with a typical schedule of 3 to 11. I felt safe, but that was about to change.
Gave my friend's boyfriend her phone number after he hit on me. I was at a club when I spotted my friend's boyfriend, who I knew had cheated on her before. He started flirting with me, so I gave him a fake name and pretended to flirt back. When he asked for my phone number, I wrote his girlfriend's number on a napkin instead. He called later that night, asking for a different name, and my friend broke up with him soon after. Months later, she met an amazing man and got married. When I finally told her what I did, she was grateful and thought it was hilarious. She had already moved on and was happy, and I was relieved that my actions had helped her escape a bad relationship.
Mysterious footprint found. I woke up to a chilling discovery: 2 large footprints embedded in the carpet facing my bed where my newborn baby and I sleep. The footprints are not mine, and I'm certain they don't belong to my kids. I'm still trying to figure out who or what could have made them and how they got there without me noticing. The footprints seem fresh, and I'm getting increasingly uneasy about the whole situation. I've been racking my brain, but I just can't shake off the feeling that something is off. I'm now on high alert trying to make sense of this bizarre and unexplained phenomenon, and I'm determined to get to the bottom of it. The footprints remain a mystery, and I'm left with a sense of unease, wondering what could have made them and whether my family's safety is at risk.
My insane brushes with death. I'm sharing my experiences that led me to believe in quantum immortality. I'm safe now, in therapy and cared for. At 15, I swallowed 50 mixed pills including heart and kidney meds. I felt my organs distort, then floated above myself, detached and pain-free. I woke up hours later completely fine. Doctors found no damage or poisoning. At 16, I put a shotgun in my mouth and pulled the trigger, but it was empty. Time slowed down, and I felt the universe choosing another route. At 18, I jumped from the 5th floor of my university building. The fall felt like 5 minutes, and I felt bones break and blood pooling. But when I hit the ground, someone nudged my shoulder and I stood up with just a small scar and a cracked ankle. Everyone thought I tripped, and I had to make them believe it. My mind felt like it was switching tracks, and something felt wrong. I've been through impossible survivals, and I'm still trying to make sense of it all. I'm just grateful to be alive.
IT's worst nightmare. Our staff constantly bombarded IT with direct requests via Teams, email, and in-person interruptions, bypassing the service desk. We urged them to log tickets through email, an online portal, or a phone call, but they'd often respond with confusion, asking for a 10 to 15-minute walkthrough on how to do it. About half the time, it was due to basic computer literacy, while the other half seemed to be intentionally difficult, causing IT to give up and handle the request without a ticket. This created a huge issue, as we needed all requests to go through the proper channel. To resolve this, we had to reiterate the importance of logging tickets and provide additional training to staff, which eventually led to a significant reduction in direct requests and a more streamlined IT process. Now, our IT staff can focus on their core tasks without constant interruptions, and our service desk is able to efficiently manage all incoming requests.
Mother-in-law upset she can't feed baby. I recently transitioned my baby to exclusive breastfeeding, with one nighttime formula exception. When my mother-in-law visited, she asked to give him a bottle, but I said no, explaining he had just nursed and wasn't hungry. She suggested I pump some milk, but I told her that defeats the point of breastfeeding. I hated pumping and only do it when necessary. She claimed babies are always hungry, which I disagreed with. She's been making snide remarks all week, saying I should want a break and let others feed him. I want to breastfeed and find her comments upsetting. Now she's been upset this whole week, and I'm frustrated with her attitude.
Customer refuses to pay attention. A customer walked in, wanting to print something. I pointed out the sign with our email address, finished printing in under a minute, and entered it into the till. But the customer was too busy staring at their phone to notice. I waited, thinking they were texting or moving money around. After half a minute, I asked if they were sending another file, and they said yes. I waited again, but nothing showed up in the inbox. I asked twice more, getting the same response. Finally, I asked if they had anything else to print, and they said yes. I told them the total, less than $4. They finally looked up, dug into their pack, and pulled out a $100 bill. I firmly told them I wouldn't break the bill for such a small amount, and they claimed they only had cash. I repeated that I couldn't break the bill due to the till not having enough money. The customer was forced to find another way to pay, finally resolving the situation after several minutes of delay.
Christmas 2014. I was at my grandparents' house for Christmas in 2014, and my aunt showed up late, clearly intoxicated, and proceeded to ruin the holiday by yelling at everyone and causing a huge scene. My mom tried to calm her down, but she just got worse, eventually smashing a plate of food on the floor and storming out of the house. The rest of us were shocked and didn't know how to react. After she left, we all just kind of sat there in silence for a while, trying to process what had just happened. Eventually, we started talking about it and trying to figure out what had triggered her outburst. It turned out she had been having a tough year and was struggling with some personal issues. We all felt bad for her and decided to reach out and offer our support. We ended up having a nice rest of the day, despite the initial drama. Now, when I think back on that Christmas, I remember the weird and uncomfortable moment my aunt had her meltdown, but also the way our family came together to support her afterwards.
Laptop curse. I was tasked with preparing a Dell laptop for an employee, and started by imaging the topmost laptop from my neatly stacked pile of latitudes. However, the keyboard and mousepad didn't work, which I attributed to a driver issue. After updating the drivers, the display began to flicker on and off. I rebooted, but the issues persisted. Assuming it was a one-off problem, I set it aside and grabbed another laptop from the pile. To my surprise, it had the exact same issues, a non-functional keyboard and mouse, and a screen that kept going in and out. I started to feel a sense of unease, thinking that I was somehow cursed. I brought a third laptop to the top of the pile, and it too had the same problems. Defeated, I took the laptop off the pile and went to my desk to regroup. But when I opened it at my desk, it worked perfectly. Perplexed, I returned to my workbench and placed the laptop back on the pile, only to have it stop working again. It wasn't until I started lifting the laptop on and off the pile that I discovered the root of the problem. The screen would turn on and off each time I did so. It turned out that the pile of laptops was causing the issue, likely due to a pressure or connectivity problem. I was relieved to have solved the mystery, and I made sure to configure the laptops individually to avoid any further issues. In the end, I learned a valuable lesson about the importance of troubleshooting and not jumping to conclusions. The laptop is now working fine, and I'm grateful to have overcome the frustrating experience.
Seller dies suddenly. We bought a house in 2017 with an owner contract using escrow services. Recently, the owner passed away, leaving us wondering who to pay. We used to send monthly checks directly to the owner. The owner's daughter is now hesitant to accept the payments, fearing it will affect her monthly income. I think it's best to continue sending the checks, but payable to the original owner's name. As the buyer, it's my responsibility to find out who to pay. In Washington state, I need to determine the proper procedure to avoid any issues. The daughter's concern has put me in a difficult spot, and I must find a solution to ensure timely payments. I will have to research and possibly consult with a lawyer to find out who the checks should be payable to now, to avoid any potential problems.
Haunted house narrow escape. 14 years ago, I found my dream home, an old farmhouse on 5 acres in Midlothian, Texas. Despite its weird layout and need for renovation, I was excited to take on the project. But when I asked my kids, then 4 and 6, what they thought, they shrieked that the house was haunted and refused to live there. I was shocked and heartbroken, but I couldn't ignore their fears. We passed on the house, and it became the one that got away. Years later, my brother called to ask if I remembered the house. I did, and he told me a tornado had destroyed it, leaving only the flooded storm cellar. A church stands there now. It turned out to be a narrow escape, and I'm grateful we dodged that haunted bullet.
Breeder threatens to sue me. I adopted a purebred dog in Ohio from its previous owner, who was going through a tough time and had the dog mostly in sitter's care. I've had the dog for almost 2 months, and it's been great. However, the breeder found out about the reharming and claimed it violated their contract, which required the dog to be returned to them. The breeder demanded I return the dog, threatening to sue me if I didn't comply. I called the breeder, hoping to reassure them the dog was in good hands, but they demanded I return the dog, threatening a lawsuit. I'm unsure how they can sue me since I didn't sign any contract with them or the previous owner. The previous owner informed me of the situation, and now I'm facing a potential lawsuit for something I had no knowledge of.
Cousin gets schooled on cat affection. My cousin visited from an hour away, and I left him with my boyfriend and foster cat. He sent me a video of himself petting the cat harder and harder, despite the cat's clear discomfort, and even posted it on TikTok. When I got home, my boyfriend was trying to calm him down after the cat scratched and bit him. My cousin was shocked, but things took a turn when I explained that a cat's growl means stop, not affection. He broke down in tears, claiming he thought growls meant love, and threw himself on the floor kicking and screaming. In the chaos, he kicked me in the groin, leaving me wheezing. My boyfriend was left shell-shocked. I had to delete the video due to storage issues, but the aftermath was intense. My cousin's misunderstanding of cat behavior led to a painful and embarrassing situation for both of us.
Wasted 20s haunting me. I'm turning 32 and still reeling from a decade of self-doubt, depression, and social anxiety that left me with no meaningful connections, no dating life, and a serious case of FOMO. Now that I've overcome those issues, I'm determined to make up for lost time and live my 30s to the fullest. I want to date, travel, and make new friends, but it's tough seeing everyone talk about their wild 20s and teens, making me feel like I'm the only one starting from scratch. I'm trying to shake off the feeling that I've missed my chance, and that it's too late for me to have these experiences. I'm looking for reassurance that I'm not alone, and that it's possible to have a fulfilling life, even if it's not on the same timeline as everyone else. I'm ready to take control and start living, but I need to know that I can still have the life I want, even in my 30s.
Tech support wizard. I was at a customer site for a routine repair job which went smoothly. After completing the job, I headed to the office to finish the paperwork. As I entered, I noticed the office had only 2 chairs, so I walked past the customer at the printer scanner copier fax machine. Glancing at the screen, I saw an error message, open door, a clear paper jam with an animation showing door opening. I sat down, browsing my phone while the customer struggled with the machine. After a minute or 2, he apologized for the delay, still having trouble. I looked up, noticed a label on the machine that said Dora, and suggested he try opening it using the latch handle next to the label. He looked at me blankly, so I pointed at the handle. The customer's face lit up as he opened Dora, clearing the paper jam.
He was relieved and thanked me, impressed that I was able to solve the issue simply by reading the error message. My ability to read had saved the day, making me feel like a tech support wizard.
Corporate overtime policy backfires. My department is on call without a shift premium, but we get other perks. The company tries to call those with the least overtime first. However, if we answer and can't come in, that time is added to our overtime chart, making us less likely to get overtime later. If we don't answer, our spot remains unchanged. As a result, half the department is now ignoring emergency calls. It's a clever tactic, but the company is baffled. Instead of asking us directly, they're hiring consultants and forming committees to investigate, which will only delay the inevitable. Employees have found a way to game the system, and it's going to take a while for the company to figure out why no one is answering their calls.
Customer apologized for bad attitude. I was helping a customer check out when she returned, furious that an item was missing a piece. I explained our policy, but she got upset, huffed, and stormed out to retrieve the item from her car. Just as I was thinking that was the end of it, the phone rang. To my surprise, it was the same customer, apologizing for her attitude. She had found the missing piece in the bag and felt terrible for taking it out on me. I was taken aback by her sincerity and thanked her for calling. It was a nice reminder that people can have bad days, but it doesn't define them. I respect her for owning up to her behavior, and it restored my faith in human kindness. The apology brought a smile to my face, and I'm grateful for the unexpected turn of events. Now I look at difficult customers in a different light, remembering that they are human too. Witness to a tragedy. I was skating with friends at our favorite park when a commotion broke out. We walked towards the noise and saw a group of 8 to 10 people attacking a homeless man. The violence escalated from punching and kicking to using skateboards to bash his head. We were in shock, unable to intervene as the group fled, leaving the man unresponsive. Someone called the police and they arrived quickly, but it was too late. The man had succumbed to his injuries. The incident left us traumatized, a stark reminder of the darkness that exists. The police investigated, but no one was caught, and we were left to process what we had witnessed, a tragedy that would stay with us forever, a haunting memory of a life lost.
Shocking dinner encounter. I'm a server at a Midwestern diner. A customer appeared at a booth one bustling evening, her curly hair pinned up in a vintage style. She sat with her back to me, perfectly still. When I came around to the front, I gasped and dropped my pen. The woman was unresponsive, lips parted, skin withered, and eyes unblinking. I immediately called the police, and they arrived to confirm she was deceased. The investigation revealed she had been dead for a while, but what shocked me was that someone had paid her dinner bill before leaving the diner, as if trying to avoid suspicion. The police are still looking for the person who paid the bill, and I'm left wondering what really happened that evening. The diner has been quiet since, with customers whispering about the incident. I'm still trying to process what I saw, and the police are still searching for answers.
The time my mother-in-law tried to bulldoze my wedding venue setup, but got caught in a blizzard instead. As my 1-year wedding anniversary approaches, I recall how my mother-in-law tried to arrive at the wedding venue a day early, but a blizzard had other plans. 2 weeks before the wedding, she began tormenting me with frequent texts and calls, making pointless changes to the playlist, and demanding an outdoor ceremony in January. I, an event planner, had finished planning everything, and was wary of her trying to take over. I spent the week leading up to the wedding, planning the room setup with the coordinator, keeping the ceremony indoors due to the weather. On the Wednesday before the Saturday wedding, my mother-in-law and stepfather-in-law started their 12-hour drive, but a freak winter storm stopped them, forcing them to pull over and wait out the 68 inches of snow. I couldn't help but laugh at the situation. Guy kept cutting in line at the coffee shop, so I made his morning routine miserable. I go to a small coffee shop every morning before work, where a line of 5 to 6 people usually forms. This one guy would show up, see the line, and then pretend to remember he needed to ask the barista a question. He'd walk up to the counter, ask something stupid, and then order while he was already up there. I witnessed this at least 4 times. Nobody called him out because confrontation before coffee isn't worth it. So I started playing the same game. Whenever I'd see him walk in, I'd quickly step out of line and beat him to the counter. I'd ask annoying, time-consuming questions. What's the difference between a latte and a cappuccino? Do you have oat milk? Which one froths better? Can you explain your pastry selection? Then I'd say, oh, let me get back in line and think about it and go back to my spot. He'd be stuck standing there looking like an idiot. I did this to make his morning routine miserable, and it worked.
Insane guy claims to know the owner. It was a chaotic Saturday rush, with the lobby packed and a 45-minute wait list. That's when he walked in, bypassing the line, and approached me at the host's stand with a confident smirk, saying he knew the owner and always got a table immediately. I called his bluff, asking for the owner's name. He froze, looking at the ceiling then at me, before hesitantly saying Dan. The problem was, our owner's name is Maria, and she was standing right behind him, watching the exchange with amusement. She tapped him on the shoulder, saying I'm Dan, and the guy's face turned bright red as he quickly walked out without another word. The lobby erupted in a mix of gasps and snickers, and Maria just shook her head, smiling. The guy never came back, and we never saw him again. The wait list was still long, but the entertainment was free, courtesy of the would-be VIP.
I used theatrics to spite my bully. I got a job in the Canadian oil patch at 18, earning $20 an hour with no experience. I worked with Gary, a mean-spirited alcoholic who loved to pick on me with insults. He'd call me stupid and make jokes about my dad not being in my life. One day, I'd had enough and decided to use theatrics to spite him. I pretended to be really upset and started yelling, making a big scene. Gary got defensive, saying I couldn't take a joke. But I stood my ground, and for once, he was the one who looked foolish. It was a small victory, but it felt good to stand up for myself. Now I look back on that experience and realize it taught me to speak up against bullies. I'm no longer the timid young man I used to be.
Vanished in the aisle. I was at Wegmans with my boyfriend, following him through the aisles as he picked out a few things, including his favorite hard cider. As we approached the back of the store, he turned around, smiled at me, and walked into a small alcove with stacked 12 packs of beer. I trailed behind him, but when I entered the alcove, he was gone. I stopped and called out to him, searching the area, but he had vanished. I thought he was playing a joke on me, but as I frantically looked around, I realized he was really nowhere to be found. I walked back out to the aisle, my heart racing, and that's when I saw him standing there like nothing had happened. I was shaken, and he had no idea what I was talking about. It was as if he had never left my side. I'm still trying to process what just happened, and I have to admit, it was terrifying. We finished shopping and left the store, but the experience has left me with a lasting sense of unease.
Cargo gets priority over passengers. I'm a ramp agent at a European airport, where we're severely short-staffed. Our boss just told us to drop everything for our top-paying cargo customer, no matter what. Today, we're short on staff due to sickness, so everyone's being pulled from other flights to cover cargo. I was almost done with a flight, but now it's delayed. The passengers will be furious. We used to leave one guy behind to finish loading, but now management says just abandon your post for cargo. My colleagues and I are fed up with the low pay, constant running, and unsafe conditions. As I write this, the aircraft's doors have closed, and we've lost our slot, causing a 1-hour delay. We're frustrated and feel disrespected. Manager insists on strict planogram adherence. I'm a direct store delivery driver for a yellow store chain, servicing bread and cake products. We have a rack to display cakes, with a specific planogram, but drivers usually use discretion to stock the shelf. However, the general manager of my smallest store complained about my cake rack, citing mismatched prices. I offered to fix the pricing, but she snapped back, saying I should just stock it correctly according to the planogram. I took her suggestion literally and removed everything that didn't match the planogram, which meant taking out the most popular sales items. The GM was dejected, but I just followed her instructions, replacing the items with what was on the planogram. Now the shelf is stocked according to the plan, but it's not what the GM expected. Update: I ended things with my boyfriend. I had a real talk with my boyfriend about how I felt disrespected and lonely in our relationship. He got defensive and blew up at me, so I packed my things, walked out, and blocked him. I haven't felt this relieved in so long. I know I made the right choice, thanks to the clarity I got from thinking things through and considering my feelings. I'm done with the relationship and I'm moving on. I feel a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
Dad almost killed me. I was a teenager when I got diverticulitis, but my dad didn't believe me, even when I turned septic, delirious, and burning hot. He thought I was faking, despite my siblings begging him to take me to the doctor. One of them even got on their knees, sobbing, convinced I was going to die. I was hospitalized, and the doctor was furious with my dad, telling him I would have died the next day if my siblings hadn't intervened. I developed chronic fatigue syndrome as a result, suffering for years. Recently, I got a text from my sibling saying my dad was hospitalized for diverticulitis, but he got to walk away with oral antibiotics believed and treated promptly, a stark contrast to my own experience.
Time stood still. I was working retail a few years ago when something bizarre happened. As I approached a group of friends, everything around me froze: customers, employees, everything. I had a split second to take it all in, and then suddenly, life resumed as normal. I stood there stunned, trying to process what had just occurred. I turned to my friends and asked if they'd felt anything strange, but they just laughed and told me I was being weird. I know it sounds unbelievable, but I'm telling you, it happened to me. I still can't explain it, and it's a moment that stayed with me to this day, leaving me with a lasting sense of wonder and confusion. I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm 30 years old, and just realized I'm the black sheep of my family. Growing up, my parents neglected me severely, and I had to raise myself. I started cooking at 9 to feed myself, and faced emotional abuse. On my 30th birthday, we went out for dinner, and my parents told me they had no money, so I had to pay for everyone. My mom said I'm an embarrassment for being single at 30, and they got me no gift or card. After that, I realized they don't care about me, only their needs. I help them financially, but they favor my 49-year-old sister, who doesn't work and relies on them for rent and expenses. Recently, I sent her $1,500, but 2 days later, she claimed she had no money, and my parents sent her more anyway. I told my dad she's lying, but they still sent her money. I'm done being taken advantage of, and I don't know what to do.
Dad's shocking secret. I'm hiding in my closet, writing this on my phone, hoping the old house won't give me away. I'm 23, living with my dad, which wasn't the plan. After my mom passed, he was getting on in years, so I stayed to help. We had a quiet rhythm, but things changed a month ago. My dad, a former mechanic, started moving again after years of being sedentary. He fixed a leaking pipe in the basement, and when he came up he was grinning, a real toothy grin I hadn't seen in a decade. At first it was nice, but then he started faking illnesses to make me stay home with him. Yesterday I found out why.
I was getting frustrated, feeling trapped, but I didn't know what to do. I couldn't call anyone, he's always around. But then I discovered the truth and it's been eating away at me. I feel like I'm living with a stranger, not my dad. I'm still trying to process everything and I don't know what the future holds, but I know I need to do something. For now, I'm stuck in this situation, trying to figure out my next move.
My kids aren't adopted, and it's getting hard to pretend they are. I'm a 41-year-old bisexual man, married to my husband Mike, who transitioned 8 years into our marriage. We have 2 kids, Miles, 14, and Ellie, 12. After Mike's transition, we moved to a new town that isn't very accepting, so we told people our kids were adopted. The kids understood the situation and didn't mind the white lie. However, now that they are in puberty, it's getting tough to keep up the charade. Miles looks exactly like me, and Ellie resembles my husband before his transition. It's becoming increasingly difficult to pretend they are adopted, especially when people comment on the striking resemblance. My mom even hung up a picture of me thinking it was Miles. I'm proud of my husband and our kids, but this secret is getting harder to keep. I regret leaving my husband. 3 years ago, I left my husband of 13 years, after being together for 18 years total. It was the hardest decision, but I felt I had no choice. We had a wonderful relationship, traveling, building a life, and sharing similar interests. However, we were incompatible on big things like finances, house decisions, and communication. After buying a house, our financial issues surfaced. I paid off debt from the sale, while he paid the mortgage and property taxes. I covered all other bills, groceries, renovations, and dog expenses, despite him making almost twice as much as me. He refused to discuss finances or make a budget, resenting me for it. Now, I regret my decision and wonder how to move forward. MIL expects me to cook Thanksgiving dinner after working a 12-hour shift. My husband's parents are visiting for Thanksgiving, but I work a 12-hour shift that day. When his mom asked if cooking for 4 would be a burden, I said I wasn't cooking due to my long workday. She got angry, insisting we couldn't go out on a family holiday, despite them not celebrating holidays since their oldest son moved out. When they called again to discuss, she suggested I prep and cook a meal around my work schedule. I asked what they'd be doing all day, and she offered to check on things while I was gone. My husband intervened, expressing his desire to learn her cooking recipes, and they made plans to cook together. He's now buying all the ingredients on her list.
My mom's twisted fetish. My mom's obsession with my sex at birth has been a lifelong nightmare. From the day she found out I was a boy, she mapped out my entire life handsome, strong, popular with the ladies, and a father figure. She'd use inappropriate language, talking about my genitals like a status symbol and pushing me to be a womanizer. But it was confusing, as she'd sometimes respect boundaries only to sexualize me the next day. She'd make jokes about my dad taking me to a brothel and even done things that felt incestuous, like groping me and making suggestive comments. When I came out as trans, she refused to listen, fearing it would shatter her fantasy. She still tells me I'll destroy my life, making me feel guilty, anxious, and depressed. As I've grown older, she's tried to compromise, suggesting I can be gay without being trans, despite thinking being gay is an abomination. Her behavior is taking a toll, and I'm still trying to cope with the emotional damage.
39M ended things with me 39F, because I went to his house after disturbing messages. I met an amazing guy, super romantic and honest, but things took a turn when his dad was diagnosed with cancer. He became distant, and I respected his wish to be left alone. However, when he sent a message saying he was tired of the world and didn't want to live, I freaked out and went to his house to check on him. He didn't answer, so I went home worried sick. I messaged him, expressing my concern, but he responded this morning, saying he found my visit strange and that he's not ready for a relationship. He ended things with me, hoping I'd understand. I'm left wondering if I overstepped, or if he's just not ready to deal with his emotions.
Insane tech support call. I work in IT support and got a ticket from a user whose monitor wouldn't turn on. During basic troubleshooting, I asked if the power button was lit and if the power cable was firmly plugged in. The user paused, then said what power cable. I explained that all monitors need a power cable to function. The user replied, but it's a wireless monitor. That's why I requested it. I don't want any cables. I had to clarify that the wireless capability refers to the video signal, not the monitor's power source. The user was indignant, claiming false advertising and questioning the point of a wireless monitor that still needs to be plugged into the wall. I had to take a deep breath and reiterate that it still needs electricity to power the screen and wireless receiver. The user remained unconvinced, but eventually understood the situation. The issue was resolved, and the monitor was turned on after plugging in the power cable. The user learned a valuable lesson about the limitations of wireless technology.